Okay, hello, welcome back for part 2 of how to get your needs met and dealing with conflict. So just some housekeeping first. It is lovely if you put your cameras on so I can see you and your reactions. This is being recorded, but you won't be visible. But pop yourselves on mute, and then any questions you have, just pop them in the chat and I can have a look at those at the end. And just a reminder, if you haven't seen part 1, you might want to have a look at that first. However, let's just go through a reminder. This is part 2, and in part 1, we started with looking at the facts. So basically, you all have a behavior, and we wanted to sort of see around the situation what the facts were, and we needed to look at those without opinion or judgment, and this actually takes a lot of practice. What I saw from many of you was kind of wanting to give a story. So I would say if you find yourself starting to give a story, just stop yourself. I even thought maybe I could challenge you. The facts are probably just about 5 words, and it's literally as simple as he did this, I did this. It's that simple. So bring it right down. 2 statements with like 5 words, no stories, because as soon as we start stories, we start opinions and judgments. Okay, so from the facts, we looked at what your need was. So you had a behavior or an event that happened. What was your need? And there's the sheet online that can help you work that one out. Next, you start to guess what the other person's needs might be from their behavior. And then we have your need and we have their need. And just a reminder, we don't negotiate on that. These are your needs. This is not something that's up for negotiation. And what happens when we've got their need is we actually can start to have some empathy for them. We actually understand what's going on for them. And what's beautiful is we can have empathy for ourselves too. We had a need, and so we have empathy for our need. And so now we're empathizing with 2 people. Both people have a need. Now, these needs might be different. And what happened was there was a strategy, an event that happened, and it didn't really work well for the person. So that's why you got this conflict, or it perhaps didn't work well for either people. So 2 needs that we don't negotiate with. The next bit is how you communicate your need to actually start to get your need met. So we want to find a new strategy that fulfills both persons' needs at once. And it's on this strategy level that we negotiate. So let's say, for example, you had a need that maybe you wanted to be understood or to be heard, and you feel they didn't hear you, they didn't listen. Then we think about their need. Their need might have been that, well, they didn't want to listen to you, maybe because they weren't in the right headspace, they needed some time out, or they wanted some time to themselves. So you've guessed their need, and they don't, let's assume they don't know this kind of strategy for dealing with conflict. So you might say it to them, might say, oh, so I'm guessing you needed some time out or some time to yourself because you were like tired or angry or something. And the beautiful thing about that is you don't have to get that right. And they can then express to you whether or not you got that right. And they might go, no, it wasn't that. It's just blah, blah, blah. And then they can give their need. Because remember, you're just guessing. It doesn't have to be right. Do remember at this point, they might not actually be sure what their need is because they're not aware of this. They haven't practiced it like you have. So you're just helping them perhaps to guess it a little bit. So yeah, you'll be better at this. Don't expect them to automatically know. So here we are, we've got your need and we've got their need. And then we had a situation that happened, which was a strategy that both of you got engaged in to get your needs met. And it didn't work well because one or both of you or neither of you got your needs met. So what we want to do now that we've got the needs is we want to come up with a new strategy that works for both of you. So you both get your needs met. And this is the level that we negotiate at. And here's what happens next. So this is the second part. We make a request, and it's a request, not a demand. And again, this is a little bit tricky because it takes a little bit of practice. When it's a demand, it means you're expecting them to do this strategy. So how you know the difference is If they do not agree with your suggestion and you're like annoyed about that or upset or disappointed, then it wasn't a request, it was a demand. When you're giving a request, it is a true option. They can take it or leave it, and that's okay by you. If you get upset by it, that means you made a demand. Okay, so just to recap, you don't negotiate on your need. The important bit is negotiating on the strategy. And what is important is how you make this request. And on my website, and I've put them up here, is ways that you can express this. And we express this using our need. So for example, we say, I love it when I feel heard and understood. And then you might carry on with, so would you blah, blah, blah. So would it be possible for you to give me some time today to listen to me? And you can show understanding for their need. I know it's important for you to have time to yourself. When is a good time for this? So those are on the website as well. So let's just run over what we've got in summary again. We've got, we need to state the facts. We need to find the needs, our needs. We guess their needs. And then we make a request. And the request has to be a request, not a demand. And it's really important how you word it, expressing your need. So are there any questions on that? If you just pop them into the chat, and then I can help you with them. And again, as I mentioned in the first one, to keep it simple to start with, we won't get into triggers when people are triggered. And also we're talking about a situation where you actually want to engage and stay connected with the person. So this is all about not just getting your needs met, but actually staying connected to people. How does it work in the case of too much codependency? Do you want to elaborate on that question a little bit? Or is that too hard?
Yeah, I could speak up. So
yeah, sure.
In the case of two people, and if there is a codependency in the relationship, let's say, one is dependent on the other for a lot of their needs.
Okay, so you've worked out,
how does it work?
So you've worked out what your need is, and you are feeling that need can only come from that person.
Yeah, that's what I'm understanding, that here the needs are met, and the needs are met with the other person, and this whole process works when two are involved.
So what you're actually aiming for is your need to be independent of a specific person. If it's dependent on the person, then you're falling into a demand because you're kind of demanding it from that person. So you want to work out what your need is. And then you need a strategy or strategies to get your needs met that are not dependent on a person. So if you are existing in codependency, that's where you need to put the work in to try and separate it out.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So to actually move or work on yourself to move at cause, and then this need thing would work far more effectively, right?
Yeah, because you see, if your need can only come, if that is the only person who can satisfy that need, then it's going to be a demand. And the problem with demands is people feel obligated to fulfill your need for you, and that leads to resentment. So it doesn't work well. It has to be a request where they've got an option. And so codependency is not going to give them that option.
Yeah. Because then it is probably not only a question of just one time need, there are other needs which impact how this conversation goes, or how this request of yours would go.
And I think it's a very good question, because I think it's quite common. And we actually think that only that person can fulfill that need for us.
Yeah.
And this is probably quite often why we have the conflict. So it's a very, very good question. Thank you. Any more questions before we close part 2?
Oh, good, good.
Okay.
That is what my question was. Great.
Lovely.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.